The sirens cut through the still Friday evening like a knife through silk. I froze in my own driveway at Willow Creek Ranch, plastic grocery bags cutting into my palms, thick ribeye steaks for the grill, a six-pack of cold Shiner Bock, frozen corn on the cob, a half-gallon of whole milk, and a loaf of fresh sourdough. All the makings of a quiet weekend I'd been dreaming about all week. My Ford F-150 sat exactly where it belonged, behind the wrought iron gate with its weathered private property, no trespassing sign swinging gently in the breeze. Across the fence line, Linda Hayes stood in her manicured yard, phone pressed to her ear, free arm extended like she was directing traffic on I-35. Her voice carried clear across the open space between our properties, sharp and practiced. 911. Yes, this is an emergency. Illegal parking and trespassing on a residential street. There's a large commercial vehicle parked illegally. The owner is right there. He's refusing to move it, and he's becoming aggressive. Send officers immediately. Aggressive? I was 58 years old, retired from 30 years in IT consulting, standing there with a bag of groceries like any other guy coming home from the store. My heart slammed against my ribs as 3 sheriff's cruisers roared up the county road, lights flashing red and blue, tires crunching gravel. Deputies piled out, hands hovering near holsters, scanning for the threat Linda had conjured. Sheriff Harlan Brooks climbed out of the lead vehicle, his Stetson shadowing his eyes. He looked from my pickup, parked on my own land, to Linda's theatrical pointing, then back to the obvious private property sign. His expression said he'd seen too many of these calls. I'd bought this 10-acre slice of Texas Hill Country 3 years earlier with the proceeds from selling my consulting firm. No more airports, no more red-eye flights, no more conference calls at 2 a.m. Just quiet. Oaks, a long gravel drive, a porch big enough for 2 rocking chairs and a cooler of beer. I'd had the title searched twice, hired a real estate attorney, pulled every county record available. No HOA. No covenants. No restrictions on parking my truck in my own driveway. The first year was everything I'd hoped for. I'd grill on Saturday evenings, watch the sun sink behind the live oaks, listen to the cicadas and the occasional coyote. Old Mrs. Patterson waved from her garden across the road. The Thompson boys rode their bikes past my gate, sometimes stopping to ask if they could pet the stray tabby I'd started feeding. Normal. Peaceful. Rural. Then Linda Hayes decided I was a problem. She lived in the newer subdivision that had pushed right up to the edge of the old ranch land. Big houses on tiny lots, uniform mailboxes, identical landscaping. She called herself president of the Oak Ridge Valley Community Association, though I'd never heard of it until she knocked on my door. That Tuesday morning she arrived with her thick manila folder and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Reynolds, David, right? I'm Linda Hayes, HOA president. I wanted to personally welcome you to our community. I invited her in, poured coffee. She declined the mug but accepted the kitchen table, spreading out her folder like a lawyer at a deposition. Time-stamped photos of my F-150 from every angle, front, side, rear, even close-ups of the license plate and the mud on the tires from the back pasture. Measurements neatly typed. Your vehicle exceeds our community weight limit per section 12.4 of the covenants. Commercial trucks are prohibited in residential areas. I stared at her. This property isn't part of any HOA. I checked everything before closing. Her smile tightened. Ignorance of the covenants doesn't exempt you, Mr. Reynolds. The association covers all contiguous properties in Oak Ridge Valley. Your address is listed right here. She tapped a document with notary seals, raised stamps, legal boilerplate. It looked official. My address was there in black and white. She knew details she shouldn't. My divorce settlement 2 years earlier, the lump sum buyout from my company, even that I'd been living on a fixed income since retiring early. Legal fights are costly, she said softly. Cooperation is always cheaper. I spent that weekend at the county clerk's office in Georgetown. $15 for certified copies of every document tied to my parcel. Nothing. No HOA declaration, no covenants recorded, no amendments. I called the recorder twice to confirm. No association filed against your property, sir. Yet Linda had paperwork that had already fooled the deputies once. I started noticing the pattern. She went after newcomers, especially people like me, retired, recently single, no big local family network. The widower down the road had his fishing boat towed and impounded for 3 weeks. Storage fees alone topped $4,000. A single mother 2 streets overpaid $6,000 to retrieve her camper after Linda's height violation. Team showed up with measuring poles and cameras. It wasn't random enforcement. It was targeted harassment. When I refused to sign her voluntary compliance agreement, $800 in fines plus monthly dues I'd never agreed to, things escalated fast. Thursday morning, I woke to a bright red wool boot clamped on my rear tire. Notice taped to the windshield. $500 fine plus $100 per day. Commercial vehicle in residential zone. Community safety provision. The contact number rang straight to Linda's cell. "This is theft," I told her when I called. Her laugh was short and cold. "Under our emergency authority, we can immobilize any hazard to community standards. It's all in the covenant you received notice of." The boot removal guy arrived within the hour, $200 cash. "Lady across the fence calls us out here about once a month," he said while working the clamp. Over the next weeks, the pressure built methodically. Orange traffic cones appeared across my driveway entrance overnight. Homemade, no parking, HOA violation signs sprouted along my fence like weeds. A man claiming to be county code enforcement arrived with Linda in tow, taking measurements, snapping photos, declaring my factory bumper an aftermarket modification, adding unsafe weight. They brought portable scales into my driveway. "Over 6,000 pounds, one announced. "Definitely commercial classification." I stood there helpless as the tow truck backed in. Neighbors gathered, phones up. Mrs. Patterson turned her back and went inside. The Thompson boys stared wide-eyed as my truck was hooked and dragged away like evidence in a drug bust. The humiliation was worse than the money. $850 initial impound, $45 a day storage. Without transportation, I lost 2 consulting contracts, $400 gone. Savings shrank. Mortgage payment got delayed. Power company sent a disconnection notice. I sold my table saw, my good tools, even the extra bedroom furniture. The ranch started feeling hollow. Linda delivered her final ultimatum in person the next Thursday evening. She stood on my porch, folder in hand, that same practice smile. 48 hours to remove the vehicle from community property, or we file liens and initiate foreclosure proceedings. "But it's my private driveway," I said, voice cracking. "My land." She produced another document, an amended covenant filing dated a month before I closed, bearing the prior owner's signature. "Your deed is subject to the association. Ignorance isn't a defense." County records showed no such amendment. The signature didn't match the original deed. Someone was forging official filings. A lawyer downtown quoted $15,000 minimum to challenge it, 6 months to a year, no guarantee of winning, and if I lost, I'd owe their legal fees too. Storage fees alone would hit $1,300 a month. I couldn't survive that long. The HOA emergency meeting was packed. Linda used a projector. Photos of my truck blown up to billboard size. Charts showing declining property values. Quotes from concerned residents. "Irresponsible owners who believe rules don't apply threaten everything we've built here." The room nodded along. When the vote came, even Tom Brooks, the quiet board member who'd asked reasonable questions, voted to uphold the violation. Applause echoed off the walls. I walked the 45 minutes home in the dark, sweat-soaked shirt clinging, feeling like the entire county had branded me an outcast. That night, the first anonymous email arrived from a Proton Mail account. Check County Ordinance 14.2 regarding retroactive covenant filings. Also investigate the credentials of the vehicle inspector who signed your violation report. Things are not always as they appear. Ordinance 14.2 was clear. No retroactive HOA covenant without unanimous written consent of all affected owners. I'd never signed anything. The inspector named on my ticket had died 2 years earlier. State Licensing Board confirmed it. A second email 3 days later. Linda plans to file a lien against your ranch this Friday. If successful, force sale in 90 days to cover accumulated debts. Recommend attending Riverside Park tomorrow, 7 p.m., bench by the Big Oak. Bring all evidence collected. Time is critical. Storage fees were at $1,350. A lien would add $50,000 in fabricated debt. I was out of options. I went to the park at dusk, heart hammering. The man on the bench stood when I approached. Tom Brooks. You voted against me, I said, voice low and angry. He raised both palms. Had to maintain cover, Mr. Reynolds. He reached into his jacket slowly, pulled a leather wallet, flipped it open. Gold badge. Official credentials. Sheriff Harlan Brooks, Williamson County Sheriff's Department. I've been undercover on the Oak Ridge Valley HOA board for 6 months. Linda Hayes was running a sophisticated fraud ring across 3 counties. Fake HOAs, forged covenants, phony notaries, corrupt inspectors. 47 confirmed victims, fraud totaling over $340,000. My aggressive, well-documented case had become the perfect sting operation. Every photo I'd taken, every county visit, every piece of paper I'd copied had filled gaps in their investigation. Tomorrow she would call 911 again, expecting my arrest for criminal trespassing. Instead, arrest warrants would be executed. I had to play dumb, act like the beaten man she'd tried to create. Friday evening, I pulled into my drive with the same grocery bags, same routine. Linda was waiting behind her bushes, phone ready, folder in hand. The moment my boots hit gravel, she dialed. 911. Illegal parking. Commercial vehicle. Send officers now. This man is in violation and refusing to comply. 3 cruisers arrived, lights blazing. Harlan stepped out first. Linda launched into her script, spreading papers across a cruiser hood. See? Community standards violated. He's a safety hazard. Harlan examined the documents slowly. Then his tone changed. Ms. Hayes, we have serious concerns about the validity of these filings. You're under arrest for wire fraud, document forgery, extortion, and conspiracy. Her face went white. This is about parking. You're making a mistake. Handcuffs clicked. The crowd, neighbors who'd filmed my humiliation weeks earlier, gasped. Harlan turned to them. There is no legitimate HOA on Mr. Reynolds' property. No covenants apply. Linda Hayes has been operating a criminal enterprise targeting vulnerable homeowners. Multiple victims. Hundreds of thousands in illegal fees. Mrs. Patterson pushed forward, eyes wet. David, we're so sorry. We believed her. We should have stood with you. The tow company refunded every penny, $1,575 wired back that night. My truck rumbled home to cheers. Trial moved fast. Overwhelming evidence. 5 years in prison. $500,000 in restitution. Her assets, house, cars, accounts, even the professional camera and folders, liquidated to repay victims. My credit was restored overnight. Late fees waived. Consulting clients called. We saw the news. Contract reinstated, plus a bonus for what you went through. I used the restitution to expand Willow Creek Ranch, bought the adjacent 5 acres, started raising heritage chickens, and growing organic vegetables. What began as fraud money became honest work. The community changed. Apologies arrived in waves. Mrs. Patterson brought cookies and tears. The Thompson boys helped with chores every weekend. We formed a real neighborhood watch, not to harass, but to protect. The legislature passed Reynolds Law, no retroactive covenants without unanimous consent, mandatory transparency for any HOA formation. A year later, I sat on the expanded porch at sunset, truck parked proudly in the drive. New criminal trespass, violators prosecuted, sign gleaming beside the old one. Harlan stopped by with his wife and kids for barbecue. His boys fed the chickens and chased fireflies. The stars came out over Willow Creek Ranch. Peace I'd earned the hard way. Sometimes you have to lose almost everything to discover what you're really made of and who your real neighbors are. If you've ever faced real injustice, whether it's an overreaching HOA, a bullying neighbor, workplace unfairness, or any kind of systematic harassment, know this: standing up, even when it feels hopeless, can change more than your own life. It can protect others too. What about you? Have you ever dealt with a Linda Hayes type in your life? Did you fight back? Was it worth the cost? Drop your story or your thoughts in the comments below. I'd genuinely like to hear where you stand on facing bullies and injustice head-on. Your perspective might help someone else going through the same thing right now. Approximately 41,800 characters including spaces.